Hello and welcome to For the Love of Oats. It is the fifth installment featuring yours truly, Jack Richardson, and over to my left over here is Vicky Masita.
Hello.
The tiny pet.
Hello.
Awesome.
As you are stuffing your face, I shall start off with the. I'm dribbling down the beard. Anabolic beard gains at that.
I need to stop doing
that. The beard has some of the rice pudding as well.
That's why I grow the beard, so I can catch it.
Oh, you catch it, exactly. Save that for Ron.
Yeah.
Indeed. So as we do our usual catch up, let's have a catch up. How have things been going with Mr. Richardson?
Pretty decent. My strength has been flying up. I had to pull out deadlifts though because I'm having a bit of trouble, I believe, with the sciatic nerve. I haven't had anything like it, so that's why I'm saying I believe with the sciatic nerve. It's sort of new, but I believe that's going as well. But other than that, strength's just flown up quite. Like I've had a couple of days in the gym where I've thought, right, okay, fuck the logbook, not going to do that. And I've just made stupid jumps, as in I've upped to the load, and with that increased load, I've increased the reps. Like the logbook told me if I was to follow that, it'd be like, you're not ready for that weight yet. Another week on this weight. Like for example, my pressing. I was 60s for a few weeks, and I was getting 60s for about 9, 10 in sets. And in my mind, I thought, right, okay, we'll have another week on 60s. I just felt in the gym, I was like, right, okay, I feel good. I feel good. Yeah. So I got put in the gym and I went on to the 62s, just straight away, just disregarded the 60s were there, 62s, and I got more reps. I got 11 reps. So it was, you know what I mean? Sometimes there are days where you just discard the logbook. And I remember Matt Jensen saying when I went to one of his seminars that he doesn't actually log himself, it goes through feel. And I think we've discussed this previously, a hybrid between the two could be very beneficial, especially if you're assisted as well, because those jumps in weight can happen. But, you know, there is still a detrimental value for the logbook as well, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things or points that you can take home, and what we were talking about actually on the last podcast about having those big jumps, is just being aware about your tendon health as well and tendon strength. Because even though your strength is going like proper through the roof, your tendons sometimes don't have time to catch up to that strength. So you can be privy to injury. So like you were saying, having a hybrid of the two, seeing how you are in the gym, doing that big heavy lift, logging that, and then the following week coming back and actually saying, okay, so I did the 62s for 11. Maybe I should keep on that again for another week, just to kind of allow my joints and my tendons to realistically adapt to that particular stimulus. Is that what you're thinking? Or are you thinking, no, I'm just going to be a bro and go up to the 67.5s next week and hope that it can save my life?
No, if I'm getting, like, the thing is, if the rep range was quite low on that, then I would say that I'd be like, right, okay, definitely we'll probably go back to the 60s, whatever. But the fact that I've increased the rep range is interesting. So I do definitely agree with what you're saying. And next week I'll lightly stay on the 62s. If things are moving up quite nicely again, I might try to set on the 65s. We'll see, potentially. But more than not, I will just pretty much stay on the same weight for the reasons that you just said. Another thing that I've implemented this week is a bunch of stretching, a bunch of mobility, because I've put on a lot of weight in a short period of time. I'm so rigid. I am so rigid. I can't move. I can't move. And this is why I think I'm starting to get a bit of trouble, like from the deadlifting movement and things like that. So I've started stretching, trying to stretch about twice a day, do some mobility work before workouts, because a lot of people are like, right, yeah, in the off season they go quite lazy in terms of that.
Mm.
I think if maybe that might be the most detrimental time to actually stretch, because you're growing constant muscle tissue, especially if you're assisted. And there's no excuse not to be a flexible bodybuilder. A lot of people
Mm.
associate bodybuilders with being quite immobile, quite rigid, and whatever. That's only if you neglect, your flexibility and things like that. You've got bodybuilders like Kai Green, Ronnie Coleman, massive bodybuilders who are able to do the splits. So why can't 200 pounds, the average Joe of 200 pounds, just be a little bit flexible and be able to touch the toes? Do you know what I mean?
Because they're lazy.
They're lazy.
They're lazy. You know what else I find that people are lazy with? Core work.
Yeah.
Because they just think that doing the heavy lifts is going to stabilize your core, and it's like, well, yeah, that's great, but what about actually building your core up for spinal stability at the same time? The amount of people who I have come to me saying that they have lower back pain so much, and it's not because of the actual lifts that they're doing in a poor manner. Sometimes it can be, obviously, and they're just putting all the strain on their back. But if they've got a bad core, a weak core, they don't know how to brace, then yeah, their back is taking the full brunt of that weight. And that could be in any kind of axial loading or lifting from the floor, like deadlifts. If you haven't got a good brace and you can't do that, and especially if you are detrimenting your or neglecting your core work, then yeah, it is not that good. And if you do make sure that you keep on top of your core work, you can have a really, really solid midsection in your off season at the same time. So that's one of the things that I find people are missing, is their core
Absolutely.
work.
I think people are like, they will train their splits. So they'll do the work in the gym in terms of resistance training. So they train, back, chest, legs, arms, shoulders. They do all that, but they will neglect things like stretching, mobility, cardio, and core work. Those little bit of intricate details which do have a benefit of like injury prevention and probably increasing your performance in the gym as well. And obviously overall health.
Indeed. So do you do your core work apart from vacuuming first thing in the morning to the mirror for the socials?
For the gram. I've got to do it because I'm classic, Mr. Classic, so I've got to vacuum on social media. It's compulsory, Becky. I do core work. I do like to do some cable crunches. I did used to do a lot of planks on the front and a plank on each side, and try to overload that with time. I am going to incorporate that back. Yeah, I'm going to probably do that with my stretching. But yeah, I do my core work. I do my, and to be fair, it's helped with compounds such as deadlifts and such as squats. Oh, Mr. Blurry's back.
You have gone Mr. Blurry back. I love how you try and actually do it with your thumb. And it's like, if you blur, put your thumb on the camera and magically that works. It doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, it's actually quite hilarious.
Yeah. So this is a brand new webcam that I've invested in for the sake of the podcast, and all it does is blur on me. Technology isn't my friend at the moment. But anyway.
Yes, moving swiftly on from it.
Moving swiftly on, how have you been, Vic?
I am fabulous. And the reason why I'm fabulous is because I had a good week of deloading. I came back from that deload, and I actually came first session back in the gym with legs with you, wasn't it, on Monday? And I just said to you, I'm just going to match my numbers. That's what I'm going to aim to do, because I had a little bit of a feeler session when I was up at Strength Asylum with Badger on the Saturday. And then I thought, right, okay, I'll just slowly kind of get back into things. And then on the Monday, I'm just going to match my numbers. And you were like, no, you're not. You know that you're not. I was like, oh, I'll just see how it feels. Let's see how it feels. Yeah, first 3 exercises, I just increased on absolutely everything. And it was for weight as well as reps. Even though the weight was just a little biscuit, it was that pendulum squat, which you always get scared of me doing because I passed out on it a few
Yeah,
weeks ago.
yeah. Like after every set, like you're like, and I'm like, are you okay? Are you on me?
It was funny. But the thing is that I just need to get my breath back. That's all it is,
Yeah,
because
well,
yeah,
I thought
that's
that
all.
was the case the first time. I'm like, okay, you just need your breath back. Okay, now you're unconscious.
Yes. But it didn't happen this time. It didn't happen this time. Although I did manage to get a crowd behind me. I know that Andy and Hayden were just kind of like surrounding me and saying, come on, Vic. And I couldn't really give a damn what they were doing because I was more concerned about where you were because you needed to catch me if I
Yeah,
fell.
yeah,
You were there, which is all good. But yeah, I did increase on the pendulum squat. I increased on everything. My legs are still hurting, considering that I got to a point where I wasn't actually feeling my quads. I wasn't getting any kind of muscle soreness at all, and I was getting a bit worried because I wasn't actually hitting the muscle properly and efficiently. But yeah, they're like in bits today. So I finally got those exercises that I'm personally connecting with, and all it is differences in foot placement.
yeah, yeah.
So I've moved a couple of things around based on my particular mind muscle connection for the quads, and it's really bloody worked. So yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah,
Um, and the same with everything else, really. Pressing movements in push went really well. Pulling movements yesterday was ridiculous. We did have a really good session yesterday. I mean, I was broken by the time we got to our single arm rows. But yeah, talking about the single arm rows and increasing on reps and things like that as well, I decided to actually put my weight used down a little bit, didn't I?
yeah,
And just reason being is when I videoed my last pulling movements that we did together, I noticed that there was a hell of a lot of shoulder rolling going on with that heavier weight. So we kind of came to the conclusion that, well, can we stay on the same weight and just improve the form whilst doing that? Or shall I just decrease the weight a little bit and make sure that I get really good, adequate reps? And that's exactly what I did, wasn't it? Just decreased it, made sure that every single rep counted, which they did. And my lats were contracting brilliantly, more so on the left side than the right, because I just have a better connection on that side, apparently.
yeah, yeah. Well,
But
a lot of people do. Like
yeah,
same for me.
exactly.
I'm big on my lefty. All right,
Big left.
blocking.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, I suppose all in all, it's actually been a really good 3 days back in the gym after a deload.
Yeah, like your progressions are pretty crazy. Like silly, very silly, very
very
silly.
silly.
Our off season is going well, so the decision to train together, we're debunking the myth so far that guys and girls can't train together. We're debunking the myth that there is no extra benefit of a training partner. I feel like there is for sure because whilst you're on your deloads, my sessions just didn't work. They weren't the same. I don't think. Maybe the energy was different. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. They just weren't the same. I just couldn't get the same. I wasn't really progressing. All of a sudden, you've come back, and I'm I'm hitting some crazy PBs. So yeah.
Influencer. I am a massive influencer in person, more so than on social media, which I think is one of our topics that we're going to talk about today, isn't it? Because
social media.
yeah,
Let's discuss
social media. We've had a number of conversations about it face to face, haven't we? About influences on social media and, what people perceive with social media. One of the posts that I put up a while ago actually was it was just literally a text post. There's no picture on it at all. But it was stating just because JP does snatch grip RDLs doesn't mean that you have to. And it's just because it was, I mean, JP, I love JP, I think he's great, but he did snatch grip RDLs, and then all of a sudden, everybody was doing snatch grip RDLs.
This is crazy because never, like before social media, you wouldn't get exercises really trending.
No.
But I find exercises now are trending. Like RDLs trended quite a bit. Training without a belt is trending quite a bit.
Not a fan, by the way. Not a fan of not training without a belt.
Yeah, so like
for everything.
exercises are trending. I think it's because you've got obviously the people have high following on social media that people are seeing that, they're like, right, okay, they're doing it, so that is a must to do. I've got to do that. It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of unique, really, because this is a very new day and age where that's happening, where things like exercises are trending. I see all across the board. You're like, right, okay. I see one popular person doing it, and I'm scrolling down my Instagram, and everyone's doing it. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I actually had this conversation in in a gym actually when I was training on my own, and it was a really good mate of mine, and he said, "Oh, I've started putting seated overhead barbell press in my plan because I saw JP do it, so I thought, well, maybe I should do that. Then I should put that in my plan." I said, "Yeah, but why? Just because he does it, does that mean that you have to do it? Were you progressing on your dumbbell presses?" And he said, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, why are you changing it then?" "Oh, well, I don't really know." I'm like, "Are you getting shoulder pain with it?" Yeah, I do get shoulder pain with the barbell. So,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
why?
That's the thing. You've got to train with what suits your structure and what suits your ability. So like I've even had messages like, why don't you do it this way? I'm like, I don't want to do that. Why don't you deadlift with no shoes on?
Yeah.
Or with fucking sandals or what, flip flops? I'm like,
Mm,
you know what? Because I'm an individual who likes to train, who like in a way that suits them. Like you can't you
exactly.
there is right, there is merit to seeing some exercises, all right, taking some online and thinking, wow, okay, that's good, and maybe I can implement that into my plan, give that a go. But if you're following solely of what and someone else is doing 100% of the time, you're probably going to come to a point where it's not going to be optimal for your own progression.
Totally. Well, I mean, it's the same kind of thing as a pro bodybuilder. I have BB Pro, who's on a lot of exogenous assistance, so who's on gear, who eats a copious amount of food, and he puts his bodybuilding split up, right?
Yeah.
Obviously talking about you. But he puts his bodybuilding split up, yeah, and he puts up the split that he follows and all of the exercises and the volume that he puts up as well. And then you have somebody like me, aspiring bodybuilder, wants to be big, wants to be the massive, and I'm like, right, do you know what? I'm going to do the same split as him. That wouldn't fucking work, like at all.
No,
If I tried to do the same kind of split as, say, James Holland's heads, one, I would die, and then two, I'd never be able to recover from it because I am a 5 foot tall natural female and he's not. So for somebody to try and do the same kind of split as that person, it just isn't right. It's like people who just put in barbell squats in every single program without actually analyzing that person's squat technique. Not everybody is built for squats. I've seen people who squat to parallel and then literally bend in the middle. And they're like, "Oh, I've done a 90 kilo squat." It's like, no, you haven't. You've done like a hybrid kind of crouch good morning type thing, which you're just going to kill yourself on.
you've done a backbreaker.
Yeah, so you are not built for squats. So do you know what? Don't squat. You know, if you do not need to squat because you are not a powerlifter and you're not built for it, don't squat.
Exactly.
And it's the same thing with you saying, like, people coming to you and saying, "Well, why don't you do it this way? Why didn't I pendulum squat this week, or why did I pendulum squat this week the way that I did in terms of moving my foot placement around compared to what I did 3 weeks ago?" Because I wasn't feeling my quads 3 weeks ago, and I didn't want it to be a hammy and glute focused
Suggestion
exercise.
of
Exactly.
feet. And
Exactly.
now you've got massive quads.
Now I have big quads, and now they hurt a lot. But I'm also stronger on that exercise. So, and it's we did some rack pulls yesterday, and I used a snatch grip, so just a wider grip. Reason why I did that is because I do trap bar deadlifts, and I like the way that trap bar deadlift feels on my lats at the same time because I'm in that wider grip. So in terms of the rack pull, I wanted to use that wider grip. So I'm incorporating my lats a lot better from that. And my snatch grip isn't wide either. You know, it can't be because of the way that my joints are in terms of my shoulders. It puts a lot of pressure on my shoulder joints if I do go too wide. So again, people who go these really wide snatch grips, when I describe my snatch grip, it's like, you need to go wider to have a snatch grip. It's like, no, that's my snatch grip compared to my joints.
Yeah.
As you know, I only have small arms, they're
Yeah.
short because I am short, not like you who can have a wider grip if you needed it.
Yeah.
So yeah, everybody's always individual, and people, if you just kind of follow a social media influencer as such, why is it that you're following them? And it's not just in exercises either, right? Remember when the first If It Fits Your Macros movement came out, and everybody who wanted to follow macros had to eat Pop-Tarts because it was the macro food. Apparently Pop-Tarts fit into everybody's macros.
Do you know what I hate? Right, I hate when I'm eating something because I enjoy it and then it becomes in trend. I sound like a bit of a hipster now. And then people are like, oh, you're only doing that because it's the trend. I was like, no, I was eating it before.
No, I did it before.
I was eating it because I was enjoying it. And that's what happened with Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
I was enjoying Pop-Tarts and then everyone started eating Pop-Tarts. And I was like, right, I've got to start eating Pop-Tarts because now I look like a sheep. I look like a little one.
You look like a follower.
Yeah, but you know, it happens. I think the moral of what we're trying to say is, obviously, you know, you can still take ideas on social media. That's why it's a great platform, because it gives you different perspectives of different ways of doing things from, you know, people's personal sort of experience. But it's still important to be your own person.
Yeah, for sure.
And another thing that I want to speak about in regards to social media is the narcissism that is building up.
A lot.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so you've got someone on social media, or it's happening quite a lot on Instagram. So you're getting someone whose following has skyrocketed up because they've dedicated the time on trying to grow that. And the likes have gone up and whatever, and they're getting some good interactions on their social media. And all of a sudden, nice people are turning into arseholes because they're thinking, right, okay, I'm great. And you know, this turning into these narcissistic arseholes when they were once nice. They're thinking they're better than everyone else or whatever because they've got this high number of followers. Like, for example, I saw a girl and she was on a story, and she was like addressing to all her fans and everything, speaking to all the fans. I'm like, these are people that follow you. Your following is even ridiculously high. And fans, these are just people that are following you who are interested in seeing your journey, and you're acting like you're a celebrity because you've got a few followers. You've got people who started to talk down to people. People are like, right, you're not worth my time, or, you know, like, or whatever. You don't have this following, so I'm not going to dedicate some time to you. I see it happen quite a lot. A lot of people are just turning into arseholes, whereas myself, I try not to be that arsehole.
Well, you've always been an arsehole, so you can't be a bigger one.
Exactly. No,
Just
I try not to be a narcissist, and that's why I'm an amazing person who is super intelligent and sexy.
Who has no time for belittling people who are beneath him.
Yeah. That was a joke, by the way.
yeah, exactly. But no, I totally agree. I see it a lot as well, and I see it more often now. People who compete in one show do really well, or say like one show or one season, right? Do really, really well, and then all of a sudden they're a prep coach. It's like, no. And again, it's that narcissism, isn't it? Because it's like they don't actually, or they think that they know it all. And even though they've been prepped by a coach for that particular season and they've done very well, and they don't understand the ins and outs of the actual physiology that has had to go into that prep unless they've been prepped buy an arsehole who's literally just like do all the expenditure and eat no carbs. But if they've had a really decent, solid prep and they haven't fallen into any negativity and they've done really well, and then all of a sudden it's like, I'm a prep coach, DM me for coaching. And it's like, even though you've done really well,
it's a bit dangerous. It's dangerous. I've seen people who don't do well do that. I've seen people. I have seen a guy who's entered a show with only him winning, right? Only him in the show, and he won, of course, because he was the only person in the show. And he lied to everyone, saying he went against a load of other people, which he didn't, right? And he was like, right, DM me for advice and whatever. First of all, he looked shocking on stage. Like he was emancipated, and he was just just watery. He just went to.
He was emancipated. Wrong word, mate. Emaciated.
What did I say?
Emancipated.
Oh, he wasn't. He was not. He was that. No, emaciated.
Right. Emaciated. Yeah.
Okay. Shit, I need to get my dictionary out for this.
Good job, you followed that up well. Okay. Goodness. Anyway, carry on.
Okay, back to what I was saying. Like, he's offering advice. Now, his advice is very, very dangerous. But like, he's obviously lying about, what he's done in these competitions, going against a load of people and whatever. And yeah, even people who aren't doing very well, they competed on one show and they're offering advice, and again, it's quite dangerous, because they think, right, okay, I've done this, and he was guided by a coach as well. I've done this, now I can teach the world of everything. Yeah. Now I know enough about training and nutrition that I don't know enough.
Yeah.
There is still plenty. The more I learn, the more I realize there's still how deep this goes.
Oh, it's a minefield.
Yeah, so with someone with a couple of years training and training, diet, nutrition experience, it's very rare that you would know everything.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, it's even some of the things that, like, I mean, you asked me for some advice because Molly was getting poorly all the time, right? So you were like, why could this be the case? We had a little bit of a chat about it, chatted to Molly about it. We implemented some things. I talked to you about some couple of things, and you were like, oh, okay, cool, interesting. And then you talked to me about some things, and I say, oh, right, okay, yeah, cool, interesting. It was funny, actually. One of the biggest pieces of advice that I can give anybody is always listen, and always learn. So in terms of like people turning into arseholes and people having a big social media following and that kind of thing, we were in Strength Asylum the other day, and Eddie Hall was in there training, wasn't he? Yeah. So now, if anybody doesn't know Eddie Hall, well, realistically, you've been living under a rock for fucking years, because Eddie Hall was the world's strongest man, and yeah, and he does amazingly well. He's such a lovely person. So he actually helped me out with my bench the other day when we were in there, and we were having a bit of a chops, and we were talking about nutrition. And just as the off chance, I actually said to him, would you mind just recording a little video for my son, because he really likes strongman, and he really likes you, especially when you did the Eddie Eats America. Guys, if you haven't seen that series, go watch it. It's really funny. Cool. You'll be surprised how many challenges that Eddie actually loses in terms of eating. It's like, really? But yeah, so that was quite cool. So he recorded it, and there was no issues whatsoever, and it was lovely. And I actually approached all of the strongmen who competed at Britain's to record my lad a little video, because he likes strongman. And I took him to watch the Britons, and Aaron Page actually sent him a video, and it really quite hit home. Now Aaron Page came 5th in the Britons, which was excellent. And he said the biggest or top tips for you: always listen to everybody, because your mum's helping me. I've got a coach helping me. I've had to listen to lots and lots of different pieces of advice from lots of different people. And then I've picked the things that work for me and implemented it into my training. So always listen to everybody. And I think that's a really good tip from Aaron. And that goes for everybody, not just in strongman, but listen to everybody. but then take the pieces of advice that really kind of hit home and suit you. So like, for example, changing your foot positioning on the leg press or the pendulum squat in order to try and feel your quads better, just because one piece of evidence says this is how you are going to feel your quads or activate your quads in the best way possible, compared to somebody who else is saying, well, I feel my quads in this way, compared to somebody else saying, well, I feel my quads in this way. It might not just be down to foot positioning. It might be down to the amount of reps that you do, the amount of pauses that you do. Is it going to be a rest pause set? Is it going to be a high volume set? People who say that high volume doesn't work, but intensity does. Well, maybe you can do a hybrid of the two. Maybe high volume does work for one person, doesn't work for the other. So listening to everybody and learning across the board is always, always going to help. And yeah, if you don't follow Aaron Page, go and follow Aaron, because he's lovely. He's lovely. And he's got a big following, and he definitely is not an arsehole.
Yeah.
So go and follow him.
It's possible to have. How long has this podcast been running?
No idea.
No idea.
Go for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, we can carry it on. But
okay.
Yeah.
I think next thing I want to talk about is the insecurity that social media can bring, because what is often happening is, social media, what a lot of people do is post the highlight reel of their lives, so the best parts of their life, and then what people looking at social media do is see that and then compare themselves, and then you probably often feel down about themselves because they're not at that standard. And this often generates a lot of insecurity. So it's actually, social media can bring out narcissism, but also the opposite of, really doubting and feeling bad about yourself because you're not like the other people who you follow. And this again is another issue. And I think it's quite important to realize that people are just posting their best bits. Like I've had people like come up to me and they've followed me on Instagram, and they've said stuff like, yeah man, I really wish I had your life. Now at the time, I was posting my check-in photos, and I was saying that I'm an online coach and whatever, but at that time I was living in the YMCA, and I was in a bit of a hole in terms of my life, but that person had the perspective that I was living an amazing life, because I didn't want to post that. At the time I was living in the YMCA. I just didn't. I just wasn't ready to share that information. So that's just an example of how an individual could be just perceiving other people's other people's lives wrong. So it's just important to have that whenever you feel down, like look at, right, they're doing better in life than me, or they're doing better. It's just important to realize that you may not know the full story.
Oh, completely. You never know what goes on behind closed doors.
Yeah.
It's like these people who post about the food that they eat, and they have this huge meal of an evening time, and it's just like, oh God, I wish I could eat that. And it's like, okay, yeah, they've posted that, but they haven't posted the fact that they've lived on fucking egg whites for the remainder of the day, purely for that photo of the food that they're going to eat that evening. And what about the person what about the girl who's a model, right? Who holds up this family sharing ice cream pudding. And she's like, yeah, all the ice cream for me. Do you actually think that she eats all of it? How do you know that she doesn't kind of like binge eat all of that and then go and puke in the bathroom? You don't know that. Yeah. But she might be doing it. She might have just been having that poster or photo for the gram and then actually not eat any of it because it's just a photo. You don't know. But you're seeing this perception, this photo on Instagram, on Instagram. I don't know why I said it like that. On the social Instagram, on the socials, and you're just like, oh, why is she so skinny and she's eating all of that? Well, she might not be eating all of it, or she might have a complete horrendous binge eating disorder, which is followed up by purging.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's these kind of things, like you were saying, it can create some immense insecurities. What about in prep? Did you used to have a look through your competitors' Instagram reel and just have a look at their physique and compare yourself to them?
I didn't personally, because I'm aware of what it could do to someone's mindset. But there was quite interestingly enough, I was at one of my shows. It was a BNBF show, and the heavyweight there, brilliant heavyweight, but he came out and he had a bruise on his head. And he shared with everyone backstage. He was like, right, the reason why I have this bruise, this was after he won his trophy. I think he won the overall as well. He was like, the reason why I have this bruise on my head is because I was looking at your Instagram, pointing to one of his fellow competitors, saying, I was out for my evening walk, getting my steps in. I was looking at your Instagram and I tripped up and I banged my head because I was that worried that what he was looking like or whatever, or just that focused on his competitor. And it turns out like he won. And yeah, again, it happens in bodybuilding quite massively. And this is what I reiterate to people is like, if you're following people and it's making you feel bad, like if you're in a prep and you're following your competitor and it's making you feel bad, then don't take notice or like don't follow him. Because it can really, research has shown that social media can cause depression because of this.
Totally, yeah, absolutely.
Because of comparing, because it's human nature to compare ourselves. That's why we compare and mimic all the time. And that, that goes back to our earlier subjective of mimicking different things on social media. So it's just human nature. But it's important to just realize you are doing these things and like, right, okay, is this the healthiest thing mentally to be doing? Why am I doing this? And why? And also, why could that person be perceived as better when it actually isn't?
Yeah, exactly.
It's important.
Don't take things on face value.
Yeah, it's important to have perspective and just awareness of what's going on when using social media.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the same can be said for powerlifters. They look at their competition. They're like, "Oh, how much are they squatting?
Yeah.
How much are they deadlifting? Shit, I can't deadlift that much." But do you know what? Everybody has a bad day in the gym, and on that platform, anything can happen.
Exactly. Yeah, it happens with any walk of life. I think that's the example. It happens with any walk of life, whether you're a football, tennis player, or the average Joe with no speciality as such or no sport. And just comparing, right, okay, he's earning more money than me, he's got a better car than me, he looks happier than me, he looks like he's living a better life than me. It just happens, and everyone's gone through that stage. Everyone, I would say, everyone. Like I'm guilty of it because again, it's human nature.
Absolutely.
Oh, thick.
You would even do it in food. You can actually be jealous over food and get depressed over it. Because if you're in prep, what happens to your social media feed? You start following all of these food Instagram accounts, don't you? Like massive burgers, bodybuilding burgers, and that kind of thing. And you're salivating over it. And then you look at it and you're like, I really want that. So you start watching episodes of Man vs. Food, even though you've seen them like 73 times previously. You start watching it again because you're so food focused. And then you get upset and depressed because you can't eat it because you're on prep. Guys, don't do it. Don't do it. If you're on prep, stop following your competitors and stop following food grams, because you can't eat it. Or you're
damaging your mental health. Of course, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so that's our little ranty bit on social media. I think it's a really important thing people should take home, really. So have you got any questions that you want to finish on, or are we going to wrap it up there?
We've got some Q&As, yeah. We should do a little jingle for this part of the podcast.
There you go.
It's time for the Q&A. Oats Q&A. It's that part of day where the Q&A. Something like that, I don't know. Right, okay. So first question comes from the bot account again. It's Molly Lolex.
Oh, hi, Mol.
It's that bot again. Yeah, Molly, for those that don't know, Molly's my girlfriend. She's not a bot account. She says, being a child, what did you dream of being when you grew up?
Oh, so what did I want to be when I grew up? A veterinarian.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, always wanted to be a vet since the age of about 7 years old. I just had this immense love for animals, and I actually did my GCSE placement in a vet's surgery. And it was always the same. I always wanted to do it. And yeah, then I saw a puppy had to be put down because he had kennel cough. And I had to be in the room when they put this puppy down. He was the most gorgeous puppy I've ever seen in my life. He was just a little black puppy with a little white crest on his chest. And the way that they put puppies down when they're really poorly is they literally take an injection and inject it into their heart. It's the lethal injection, right? Yeah. So she injected it, and then she felt his heart, and it was still beating. So she had to inject him again, and it was still beating, and she had to inject him again, and then I had to dispose of his body, and it just put me off. It put me off. I was 15 years old, and for over 7 years, I was determined that is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a vet, and then I saw a puppy die.
Yeah.
And
yeah, and that's the thing. With any job that you wanted to go into, you've got to look at the bad side as well as the good side, because a lot of people do want to be vets because they want to help animals, but there's obviously that ugly side to it. Yeah, for me, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an actor.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I wanted to be an actor.
Is that the reason why you do these things in the gym now, by saying it's time?
Yeah,
to approach the bar like an actor.
And welcome to the leg press set. No, yeah, I genuinely wanted to be an actor because I just thought, people in the movies were cool. I just thought the celebrities were cool. I just thought they were the epitome of people living their best life.
Social media again.
Yeah. Again, it's just, false pretense. And then obviously when you get older, you learn that there's a lot of celebrities who are very, very unhappy and with a lot of problems with being famous and stuff like that. And acting is just terribly hard to get into. And obviously I picked up my love for training at 16, and that's what blinded me amongst everything else. So, yeah. The next question is: scared to bulk after diet and extreme low KFA?
So what? So sorry, is that a question, or is that a statement? Or
it seems to be a statement. But I'm assuming this guy is scared to put on weight after a diet. Okay. So the thing is, you've got to think about what you're going to benefit from adding the weight on. So you are probably going to be more energetic, your sleep's going to improve, your mood's going to improve, your performance in the gym is going to improve, and your ability to gain muscle is going to improve. And you cannot do all that whilst staying really lean. You certainly cannot progress muscle tissue. It's very hard, especially naturally, to do that.
I mean, I would actually state as well, if you're scared to gain weight, stop stepping on the scales. Because realistically, if you are scared of a number each morning you're going to be seeing, and you are letting that number be the judge of your day, stop stepping on the scales. Focus on other things. So use your progression photos, use some measurements if you want, especially your girth measurements, and then just focus on getting stronger. Because at that point, the minute you start to feel stronger, you're going to feel elated, and you don't really give a shit about the scale weight. If you are not in a weight predominated sport like powerlifting, weightlifting, anything like that, and you don't need to make a certain weight, then just stay away from the scales. Because I didn't hear anything in that question of scared to build lean muscle tissue, scared to get stronger. He just said scared to gain weight.
Yeah. No, that's a great answer. That's a pretty good answer. I've got a question from George Osborne.
Hi, George. How can you ask questions? You were on the podcast last week.
Yeah. His question is: thoughts on commercial gyms. Do you believe you can reach your full potential training in a commercial gym?
Depends what kind of commercial gym equipment they have. There's a
Yeah.
lot of gyms out there now that have like matrix loaded kit and plate loaded kit. And, you know, there is a gym down the road from myself who hasn't got the greatest equipment. It's not a commercial gym. It's a privately owned gym and it has got plate loaded kit, but the plate loaded kit's kind of shit.
What do you think
So
of Matrix kit?
you what?
What do you think of Matrix kit?
I haven't used it a lot, if I'm honest with you. Some of the pin-loaded matrix stuff's okay. I don't like the leverages on some of the plate-loaded kit, but the plate-loaded stuff isn't too. Pin-loaded stuff isn't too bad.
I spent the first 3 years training at Exercise for Less. It was matrix-based kit. It's not the best. It's actually quite poor in comparison to the other makes of kit like Cybex, Hammer Strength, and you know, things like that. But I built a solid foundation on that, and for the general population, the general person, then I think, you know, as long as you've got dumbbells, you've got barbell, you've got all the basic kit, you can build a solid foundation. You can pretty much achieve what you're wanting to achieve. Now, for a bodybuilder who is wanting to be the absolute best, I would argue that traveling, even, you know, making the travel to a better gym, which is what I did, because I used to live a little bit like an hour's walk from Strength Asylum, and I started my prep when I was 18, and every day, because I was training 6 days a week then, pretty much every day, I would walk an hour there to train at Strength and an hour back. Because at that time, I was a teenager, 18. Most of my money was going on prep. I didn't really have too much money for like travel and things like that. So I would make that travel, and it was worth the investment of time and also that membership just for the kit, not only for the kit, but also for the environment and for the people that I've met. So my answer to that is, a gym does make a difference to how you train and the results that you get, even if it's not just the kit. But the kit does play a role. But like, you can get some really good results with just the basic dumbbells and barbells, and you can get some really good results.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, you know, you can do a barbell and a dumbbell workout absolutely anywhere. So you've got, and I mean, I'm not being funny either. Maybe a commercial gym may not be the gym for the aspiring bodybuilder who wants to get, you know, like pro status and stuff like that. But if you have a look, I can't remember his bloody name now, and it's going to really do my head in, but I will find it and I will post it in the comments on here, on the YouTube linky bit. There was a guy who actually built all of his bodybuilding foundations and his physique in the jungle. And he actually made his free weights. Exactly, you know, he made his free weights and his things out of logs, bricks, trees, and, you know, he even made like some kind of a leg press out of the shit that he found in the jungle. And you should have seen this guy's physique; it was ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's great. Like, there was this individual who trained in his home gym, and he became a world champion, right? Bodybuilding. He was a natural bodybuilder. Trained it in his home gym, right? So it can be done. Like I say, you can get very, very good results with the basic kits, as long as you are, you know, you have a decent exercise selection and you're working with good intensity and good
aggressively overload.
Yeah, but there is benefit to going to a different gym. Now, the next question is quite interesting. It is, do you believe in online coaching? Now, that is quite an interesting question to ask to two online coaches, but my answer is yes and no. Because yes, it can be very, very effective to getting results with clients and things like that. It's a great way to, you know, obviously coach clients and not in person, so you can coach clients all over the place. And also it's a source of accountability and all those points, but no, in the sense that there's a lot of shit online coaches, which we mentioned previous in the podcast, who have very minimal experience, and because you don't need actually any qualifications to be an online coach, they they're giving out dangerous advice. So I don't believe in online coaching in that respect, but I do believe if you're a good online coach, you can be very, very effective. Um, a great a great way to do what you love, and also a great way to get clients results.
Mm.
I mean,
I don't think I can. I don't think I can reply any differently to that, if I'm honest with you.
yeah,
Because yes, I do believe that online coaching is very effective, and it can be very effective. It's just like doing an online educational course. You know, it can be very, very effective for
mm,
people who have never realistically trained in the gym before. Is online coaching for you? No, absolutely
yeah,
not. You need to be able to master the basic movements, and you need to be able to master them safely. And
yeah,
there's only so much that you can learn from an online coach who gives you video feedback, as in, like, you know, you do your set, send that video over, and your coach is like, well, can you just kind of externally rotate your shoulder just a little bit and anteriorly pelvic tilt, and that will cause the exercise to be better. It's like, well, are they actually going to understand that? I think if you have a coach that you really gel with, who uses the right terminology and the right language for you, then I think it would be very beneficial. But as long as you
mm,
know how to train initially. In terms of what you've just said there about being an online coach who doesn't have qualifications, who doesn't have the knowledge, it's the same kind of thing that we were talking about in terms of just walking off stage and then being a prep coach. You know,
yeah.
it's not how it works, and it can't work like that.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. There's a follow-up question to that, a separate question from Julia Watt, 88. He says thoughts on if online coaching should be regulated, and it just goes along. Just briefly, I'm going to answer this. Yes, it should, because again, you get these shit online coaches because you don't need any qualifications. Yeah, you just get these shit online coaches giving out dangerous advice or poor advice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, absolutely should be regulated like personal training is. Um,
It's
maybe
not really regulated though. Even PTing isn't
yeah,
regulated.
even PT, because you could do like a 6 month, 6 week shitty course and get a level 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, if not even more than that, but at the
Mm-hmm.
very least, you should be able to have a qualification and have to do some sort of course to have a basic understanding of proper training and nutrition, because you've got online coaches who are preaching like you have to go ketogenic, or you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to be restrictive with your diet to get some sort of result, or you have to do you have to have a detox or some bullshit. And if they were to follow the course, they would learn themselves that is bollocks. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's the same with nutrition. It's like, it pisses me off because I can actually call myself a registered nutritionist, but then there's somebody else who, because the term nutritionist isn't protected. Okay, the only term that's protected is dietitian. But I am registered and regulated, and I have got to do certain things because I'm a WADA doping officer as well. I've got to do a research every 3 years, yeah, to keep things ongoing. It's just like my nursing credentials. I have to do a research every 3 years to make sure that I am up to date and can continue on the register. Now, because nutritionist is not a protected term, you can literally do a 48-hour Groupon course, and that will give you a little piece of paper to say that you are a certificated nutritionist. Do you have any idea the kind of shit that I have to go through to actually have that term? I've got to look at molecular biology in order to get my
this is what
registration.
annoys me. Yeah, this is what really annoys me, because when I did my personal training course, I did a year in level 2 and a year in level 3 for the extended diploma. Now,
Yeah,
that hasn't benefited me at
no.
all, because not one person has said, right, okay, what's your level 3? How does this differ to other personal trainers? Well, I would be able to say, oh, it's an extended diploma, yada, yada, yada. But not one person has even asked if I'm qualified, really. Or very rare that I do get asked if I'm actually qualified, never mind the extent of which I'm qualified. So that is quite frustrating. That is quite
Very
frustrating.
frustrating, especially when I get clients come to me who say, I've used a nutritionist in the past, and I've basically lost my periods, and I've had this and I've had that. And then I find out who it is. And 9 times out of 10, especially in the powerlifting world, it is the same fucking person. And I swear to God, they need shooting. Because all they end up doing is creating an enormous relationship issue with food, and they just basically say, okay, eat 800 calories and leave it at that. Oh, and you can have a refeed today. Do you know what their refeed is? This is a big fucking rant. I'm really sorry. But do you know what their refeed is? After 1,100 calories, after 6 days of 1,100 calories? An apple. An apple. Because they say you can have 100 calories extra on your refeed day.
Yeah,
I'm
a
like,
whole apple.
a whole apple, but you can't eat the core.
Crazy.
Do you know what? Fucking hell. It drives me insane.
Are you going to name and shame this person?
I will do it in a later post, but I won't do it now because I'm a little bit of an arsehole, but not that much of an arsehole. But I will put a big red flag up saying, don't ever go to this person. Anyway. I know.
Yeah. So I've got a question of my buddy, Kyle Gavigan. Gaviscon.
Hello, Kyle. You're special because this is going to be the last question.
Yes. I was going to say that.
Because I need a wee. I've got to go.
Just go now. No one would know.
No, it's true.
To be honest, no one would know if you just sat there and peed.
I'm not going to do that.
The question is, if you could pick one training partner for the rest of your life, who would it be and why?
Jack the Stacked Richardson.
Yeah, there you go. Judy Vicky, because like I said, we'll make some massive gains, and she's like my Leroy Davies.
Ah, that's lovely. Cheers, dude. Fist bump on that one. Well done. Yeah, buddy. But no, on a serious note, it would actually be Jack. I do not give a shit about training with a famous person or anything like that. Jack is the only person who I have had as a continuous training partner ever in my entire bodybuilding career. I've trained with people here and there, and I've trained with really experienced people as well. Dr. Scott Stevenson from Fortitude Training, I've trained with him on a number of occasions, and he's wonderful to train with. I absolutely love and adore Scott, but I wouldn't have him as my continuous training partner. He wouldn't have me anyway, but I wouldn't have him as my continuous training partner. I think when I train with Jack, it's almost like something kind of fires up and switches on. And it's because we've got the same intensity, the same mentality, the same approach to the bar. And plus, he's as bigger an arsehole as me in the gym. So we dance and take the piss out of each other, you know. And that's what makes a good training buddy, is that you have that intensity connection, but you also have that kind of like, yeah, you're a prat, and so am I. Great. You know, it makes the session fun. And a lot of people can't train like that. A lot of people are just like, you know, head down and this is what I'm doing. And I can't train like that.
A lot of people are the opposite. They can't really have a moderate approach where they're like, you know, a lot of people like just want to talk shit or don't want to complete the workout or just want to do something completely different or just want to perform their exercises to their ego. There's a number of things, but having that perfect thing where all the variables are in line in terms of like all that stuff that I've just mentioned, and also the ability to train at the same times, which is a big one, and on the same days and a similar split. Again, these are the big ones, is very rare. So like if I was to train with, you know, Arnie or Ronnie Coleman or something like that, like the chances are that we wouldn't be compatible. Do you know what I mean?
No, certainly not.
Like, yeah, so, and that is the reason why.
And that is the reason. But that'll be quite a good one. Guys, if you're, we'll post this up on Instagram, obviously, but yeah, I'd like to actually hear that from you. Who would be your ideal training partner and why? Might put that as the post today and see what people would come back with it as. We haven't got a nice picture of us both together. We've just got ones with us gurning faces.
That is a nice photo. That's all.
That is a nice photo, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, I'll use that one. And Scott took all of those photos as well, SJM shoots. So,
yeah, they're quite cool.
They're good ones. We'll have to get some updated ones, you know, because now we're massive. Instant prolapse. Right. Anyway, that is anything to finish on, or is that it? That was a nice thing to finish.
Eat your vegetables.
Yeah. Stay in school.
Stay in school. Make sure you read and wash your hands after you've gone to the toilet. Don't eat.
Very important.
No, don't. Okay.
Don't eat yellow snow. Always wash your hands after using the toilet. Really fucking important.
You want to drink pee straight from the source.
Mm,
You don't want it
absolutely.
stagnating in the snow.
Optimal hydration status. And if it's luminous, don't be afraid. It might just be vitamins.
Yes, exactly. Right.
Right.
Okay, so
And bye.
we're ending this podcast now, but before we end it, we have a special guest next week. I think we might do this, right? At the end of the podcast, we'll just say what the next podcast is to entice.
To entice people. People should be enticed anyway. If we just say we have a special guest and then leave them guessing.
Oh, do you want to leave them guessing?
I think we should, because that'll entice them even more so.
It is a very special guest.
It's very special.
A very special guest. I would tune in if I were you next week. Because it's very fucking special. Right. Okay. So on that note, goodbye. It's been a pleasure. And I hope you all have a pleasant week.
Indeed. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
I haven't stopped yet.